All right, so good morning to our implementing partners. Good morning to our Zambit colleagues and any other attendee. We're very, very happy to have you participate in today's implementation workshop, which will have two sessions. The first session, which will begin now, focuses on how to prepare work plans and track the implementation of your projects using a tool that we have prepared for your use and for your deployment. We also have the second session, which starts immediately after. We will of course have a short break in between, but that session will focus on the mail and reporting requirements. There are some other persons that are supposed to join us, but I want us to have a timely start so we can have a timely finish. So without further ado, I'm just going to begin the session. We just want to indicate to you that this session will be recorded, and this recording will be made available once the presentations are finished. The PowerPoint presentations will also be made available to you. So thank you and for joining us, and welcome to today's session. I'm going to begin by sharing my screen. As I do so, for those who have joined us, I'm directing your attention to the chat where I have posted a message inviting you to download the work plan template and tool that we will be utilizing in our first session. If you're having any challenges, please let us know because you will be using this tool to really apply all of the knowledge that we expect you to acquire by the end of this session. So we're going to use the first 5 minutes to just do a first, just a round of quick introductions. All I'm asking you to do, okay, so someone is saying, I'm not seeing the tool to download. There is a link at the very top. I'm going to post it again, just so persons can. Right, so I'll post it again shortly, but in the meantime, I'm just going to ask persons to just introduce yourselves, starting with your name and the OCT that you are from and the project that you are representing this morning. All right, so and then afterwards, I'll ask the Resembit team that are on this platform to introduce yourselves, and I will finish with the introduction, with my introductions. All right, so anyone would like to go first? Churchill, would you like to go first, please?
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Churchill Norbert. I am the project officer for the Turks and Caicos Islands Resembit project, transitioning towards green energy. It's a pleasure meeting all of you. Thanks for having me here. Your mic is muted.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to have you, Churchill. I'm just going to ask persons to just go with the flow. So after Sabine introduces herself, I'll ask you all to follow.
So yeah, good morning, everybody. I have a little bit of noise in the background, that's why I muted. But I'm from Curacao, and we just got the okay for a Resembit program to reduce the marine pollution by innovative recycling and creating awareness. So I'm really looking forward to implementing the project. So good morning.
Thank you. Next person.
Okay, my name is Laureen Schenk. I am from Curacao, and we just received a grant for the Resembit program for the Queen Conch hatchery on Curacao. Very happy to meet you all, and I suppose my colleague Michiel will then be able to present himself also. Michiel, I'm giving the mic to you.
Thank you, Laureen. This is Michiel, also from Curacao, and I'm working together with Laureen to have Queen Conch juveniles ready to strengthen the natural population on Curacao. Thank you. I'll mute.
Next person, Mary Miller-Sala, please go ahead.
Sure. Hi, good morning. My name's Mary Miller-Sala. I'm the project manager with Health Service Transformation with the government of Montserrat. And our project, which we just recently received preliminary approval, is related to the strengthening of Montserrat's Ministry of Health when it comes to their response to pandemics, in particular, the triaging of acute patients and the related monitoring with that. Thank you.
Thank you too. Quickly, Cleveland, please go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Cleveland Julian. I am calling from the Cayman Islands. Our Rezimbit project is being done in alliance with the University of the Cayman Islands, and we are aimed at developing human capital resilience. We are training 50 Caymanians in the areas of renewable energy, tourism, sustainable construction, and information technology systems.
Thank you so much. Next person, Laureen. Oh, Laureen, did you? Sorry. The representative for Metabolic Foundation, please go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Tony Sievold. I'm with Metabolic Foundation in Aruba, and we're doing a project to validate replicable methods for coastal ecosystem monitoring. And I'm here with a few colleagues. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you. Nice to meet you too. Tashano, please go ahead.
Hi, good morning. Dr. Tashana Thomas from the Turks and Caicos Islands. I'm the National Implementation Associate. I'm looking forward to working with the Rezimbit project and making TCI as resilient as is possible. And Norbert, it will be my colleague working on these projects moving forward. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Nice to have you too. Jean-Baptiste Mark, please go ahead, followed by Kai Wolf, followed by Anthony Reed, in that order, please.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Jean-Baptiste. I'm the regional coordinator for the GO program in the Caribbean, which is the EDF thematic program, EDF 11 thematic program. Nice to meet you all, and I'm just here to learn from what Rezimbit is doing in this area of work.
Thank you, Jean-Baptiste. It's good to have you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Kai Wolf. I'm the Parks Director of the Sewa Conservation Foundation here on the small island of Sewa in the Northern Caribbean. We're working together with Stacia, Anthony Reed, on a reforestation project on both islands, Stacia and Sewa. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.
Hi, good morning. I think Kai already said it. My name is Anthony Reed from Stacia, and we're working together on a reforestation project. And I also have another project proposal, agrovoltaic project, which is actually planting vegetables on the solar panels.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to have you. And then in this order, I'm going to ask these persons to introduce themselves. So Becky Austin, Courtney Hassal, Dawn Reed, Dorisha Rogers, Humphrey, Irvin, Jessica. That's it for now. Becky? All right, Alverno, please go ahead.
Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Alverno Weeks. I'm from Montserrat. I am the Territorial Authorizing Officer, and I am sitting in and expecting my colleagues from the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, and the Ministry of Communications and Work, so who have projects approved in energy, technology, education, and Ministry of Health. I think Mary Miller here who could introduce that project, and I am looking forward to working with the Rezimbit team as well.
Thank you. Next person.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Courtney Hassel. I work for the public entity SEBA, and I am participating in this meeting because our current TAO Menno van de Velde is not available to participate, and I'm doing training in how the EU projects are working. So I look forward to learning more about the RESEMBID projects and how that works.
Thank you. Thank you. Nice to have you. Next person. I think it was Dawn Reed, then Dorisha.
Good morning. I'm Dawn Reed. I'm the Education Services Planner in the Ministry of Education, Anguilla. Our project is on building resilience within the education sector through better management of data in terms of the establishment of an education management information system. Also on the call, Doricia works with us. A number of other persons on the steering committee are on as well. I see Doricia, I see Winona. So there are a couple of persons on from Anguilla as well.
Okay, thank you. Nice to have you all. Then we'll jump down to Humphrey, followed by Irvin.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Humphrey Vrolijk. I'm policy advisor at the Department of Economic Affairs, Commerce and Industry in Aruba. We are representing the focal point, and we are overlooking the several RESEMBID projects that are being implemented in Aruba. So, for example, Metabolic Foundation is one of them. So that's the reason why I'm here, in order to promote and continue the implementation of the projects. Thank you.
Thank you too. Irvin? All right, we're not hearing from Irvin, so let's jump to Jessica.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Jessica. I'm calling in from Bonaire. I'm the project coordinator for the RESEMBID project being executed by Sinapa Bonaire, which is the park authority. Our project is called the Realizing a Blue Economy on Bonaire, which will focus on restoring marine biodiversity and promoting sustainable recreation of a large bay here on the island.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to have you. There are some others. If there are others who have joined us since we have did pretty much the roll call of who is to introduce themselves, I'm going to ask you to just quickly do that in 2 minutes. So I see Winona, for example. I see Sarita, just to name a few. So I'm just going to ask you to just quickly introduce yourselves, just for the benefit of everyone. Sarita? Winona? Yes, please go ahead, Winona.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Winona Lawrence, and I am the Curriculum Officer, ICT, within the Department of Education in Anguilla, and I am working along with the team that's headed by Mrs. Reed. We are working on a resilience project, which, like she said, entails our education management information system as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, good morning. Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Sarita. I'm from Trinidad and Tobago. I work at the Association of Caribbean States, and I'm the project assistant for the project that is dealing with tourism resilience for contagion scenarios. And our project is being executed in Curacao, Bonaire, and St. Martin.
Thank you. Nice to have you, Irvin. Able to introduce yourself.
Hi, Irvin Barnard from Green Phoenix on Curacao. I think Sabine told us who we are and what we're doing.
All right, thank you so much. All right, so at this point, I'm just going to ask our RESEMBID colleagues who are on this call to quickly introduce yourselves. Starting with Edward.
Hello, I'm Edward Turville. I'm one of the program managers with the focus on resilience. Nice to see you all today.
Thank you. Andrea? Andrea? All right, I will hop over to Eniko.
Hi, good morning, everybody. For those who know me, hi. I am Anika Prescott, the program manager that handles the portfolio on sustainable energy. Hi, everybody. I hope you have a very fruitful workshop today.
Thank you. And then we would like to introduce our program director, Fabian. Please go ahead, Fabian.
Good morning, Fabian McKinnon. Hi. I wish you a wonderful workshop. You could not be in better hands than Judy and Marcia and Susan.
And next, Susan, who is the manager. Susan, please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Marcia. Unfortunately, I can't get my camera on, but I am happy to be here. You would have received the email, save the date for me a month ago. So I'm really pleased to be here and to see how many of you have responded so favorably. So wishing that today's session goes very well and even exceeds your expectations. Thanks, Marcia.
Thank you, Suzanne. So we'll go next to Judy, Julia, Nisa, and then if there's anyone I have missed who's on the call, please, from the team, please introduce yourselves.
Hi, good morning. I am Judy Clark, Resembid's Technical Advisor for Resilience and Gender.
Good morning. Thank you. I'm Julia Morelli. I'm Associate Program Manager and I work across all three thematics of the program. Thank you all for being here.
Good morning, everybody. I am Nita Pear, the Manager for Communications and Visibility for Resembid. Just want to echo the sentiments of my colleagues. Welcome to all of you. Thank you for favorably responding, and I wish you a great session this morning.
Thank you, Nisa. We have Vinko, we have Dante, and we'll ask Trudy to also introduce herself, and then we will go into the meat of the matter. Oh, Andrea is now on call. So Andrea, you'll go after Trudy. Vinko?
Hi,
All right.
I thought Andrea is first. Hi, everyone. This is Vinko. I've had the pleasure to talk to you with few of you. So I'll be around in the background in case you need any question. If you have any question related, even though we have later session in the nearest future related to finance issues. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you, Vinko. Dante, Trudy, Andrea, and that's it for now.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. I'm Dante Oliver from the communications team. I'll be recording the call today and hope you guys have a great session. Thank you for coming.
Trudy, go ahead, please.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Trudy Waterman. I'm the Program Implementation Officer with the Caribbean Center for Development Administration, also known as CARICAD, and our role is to provide capacity building support to the OCTs in the formulation, design, and implementation of the projects under Resembid.
Thank you, Trudy. And Andrew?
Yeah, good morning, everybody. It's I'm for those of you who don't know me, I'm the program manager for marine biodiversity in the program. It's very nice to see so many familiar faces here, and yeah, looking forward to the session. Have a good one. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, so we're very pleased with the overwhelming response from you all. The OCTs are well represented, and we look forward to a very, very productive session. So I'm just going to share my screen so we can go full throttle into our session this morning. As indicated earlier, our first session will be focusing on helping you to prepare and track a project work plan. And presentation today is, let me just share my screen. Sorry, going to presentation mode. So the presentation will be structured with a focus on these three areas. Why is the work plan template and the tracking tool needed? What are the steps in preparing this work plan using the template that we are providing? And how do we use a work plan tracking tool? And of course, we will have question and answers. Because I will be presenting, I may not immediately see your questions. So at different points during the presentation, I will pause to accommodate the questions that you have. So please feel free to post those in the chat. And just to also, please also be reminded that we do have this dedicated Q&A session at the end where you can, ask all the questions that you want. You will also have the opportunity to use the tool, and as such, the link to the tool has been posted in the chat. I'm going to ask you to download it. I'm going to post it again just so that, I'm sorry. I'm just going to post it again so that you are able to see. So just give me a sec, just for those who, so there we have it again. So please feel free to download it right now so that we can have an efficient workshop. So why do we need this work plan template and a tracking tool? Well, firstly, what we recognized as we received the different work plans from the various OCT projects was that there was a lack of standard. There was information that was missing in some work plans that we need to really help us to fulfill, to undertake the kinds of tasks that we want to do. And this includes portfolio management, it includes monitoring, it includes reporting. So it was very, very important that we address this problem from now so that we'd be able to be effective and efficient in our processes. So the first reason is really, as I indicated, to standardize the work plans across the projects. 2, to provide you with a tool for the regular tracking of the progress in project implementation. So with this, you'll be able to see how the project is doing with respect to your work plans. Thirdly, we want to promote the use of data in the way you manage the projects, and also, to help you to identify the corrective actions that need to be taken to maximize the likelihood of project success. And importantly, we want these corrective actions to be timely. And therefore, when we come to the tracking aspect of this tool, you will see why we do encourage you to do a monthly tracking so that you can always be au fait with the health of your project and you can take the necessary steps to make the improvements. Finally, as I indicated earlier, we want to be able to manage the portfolio effectively. With so many projects, it is very, very important that we have a finger on the pulse, so to speak, so that we're able to provide the necessary support to you and we're able to also fulfill our accountability requirements. So we're going to go next to the work plan template. And as I indicated earlier, I have placed the link to the template in the chat. I'm going to ask you at this point to click on the link. When the link opens, it will take you to the template. You may see a number of messages, including reference isn't valid. If you see that, just select OK. You may see you may see enable content at the top of your sheet. Please enable the content. You may see the message you can't update some of the links in your workbook right now. Just select continue, or you may see, do you want to make this file a trusted document? Select yes. So I'm going to ask you to do that now. Once you have done that, sorry, I'm just going to ask you to just use the raise hand feature to raise your hand to confirm that you have successfully done this. Okay, just checking. All right, excellent. I'm seeing that most, well, okay. Okay, I see you, Michelle. Thank you. Okay, I can see that most persons have managed to download the template. So we're just going to go to the tool itself at this point. So once you open the tool, this is what you will see. You're going to see two tabs, one entitled Instructions for Completion, and the other one, the Work Plan and the Tracking blank. All right. So what I'm going to do as a first step is just familiarize you with the template itself. So in the first tab, Instructions for Completion, the purpose of the tool is introduced, and then below that are detailed instructions for completing the work plan itself and for using the tracking tool. So as indicated at the very top, I'm sharing my screen right now, but you know, this, as I said, is pretty much, you know, this is the information that is in the tool that you have downloaded. So the purpose is to guide you in the completion of the work plan and the tracking tool. The template and the tool itself allows you and any other user to plan and track project activities or milestones and budget in a summary manner. At the top of each sheet is a simple dashboard, and that dashboard may be used to monitor the overall status of project activities and milestones and the budget on a monthly basis. Below the dashboard is a work plan template, which may be used to list all of the project milestones and activities, etc., the estimated start and end dates, and the planned cost. So for the completion of the work plan template itself, colleagues, you are required to complete the work plan section with the project name, the project ID, the activity/milestone, the type of activity, start date, end date, etc. So I'm just going to go to the work plan and tracking template itself, and I'm going to ask you to just focus on my screen at the moment, and then I will ask you to focus on what you have downloaded. All right. So, so just to kind of confirm what I just read from the instructions, we have the first section, which is at the top, which has project name, project ID, OCTs, etc. Just want to confirm, are you all seeing the work plan template that I have on screen?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, so so for the project name, this is already preset. So all you have to do is select the name of your project. So for example, we have, let's use ACS, Advancing Collaboration as a Strategy for Building Tourism Crisis Resilience in OCTs of the Greater Caribbean. So once you select your project, the project ID will automatically populate, and the project start and end dates will also automatically populate. So no need to worry about trying to find this information in your project documents. That is already provided for you. For the OCTs, we have a drop-down list here. So all you need to do is select the name of your OCT. If your project is being implemented in more than one OCTs, then we ask that you select regional. Okay, so in the case of ACS, of the project that we have selected, it is a regional project, so that has been selected. Then you're asked to select the priority focus area. So you select what that is, whether it's resilience, marine biodiversity, or sustainable energy. And my memory serves me right, it is sustainable energy. All right, so having done that, we have some other fields below. We have the current milestone status with 3 options: not started, four options: not started, in progress, complete, and overdue. We also have below that a budget section, and we have 2 elements: the planned budget and the actual budget, which corresponds to what has actually been spent. Now, just to indicate to you that the current milestone status and the budget, these are elements of a simple dashboard that will be updated every time you update the tracking element of this tool. So I will be demonstrating that to you shortly. Now, in completing the work plan template, you are required to enter the activity or milestone. You're also asked to select the type of activity, the actual completion, the start date for that activity, the end date for that activity. And once you have entered those, the latter two, the start and end dates, the number of days or the duration for that activity will automatically populate in this field. The next one, as part of completing the work plan, is to also enter the planned cost for each of these activities. Good. And then if there are any notes, I mean, this is completely optional, but for the work plan itself, you may provide notes. But this is really reserved for the tracking feature of this tool, where you'll be, and I'll come to that shortly. So I'm gonna ask you to just pay attention to my population of this template with information related to this particular, just some hypothetical information, not necessarily related to this ACS project, but just to demonstrate how this tool can be useful, and also how you are required to complete the work plan template itself. So you'll notice here that we do have some drop-down fields. Now, this drop-down field will only be applicable to the activity, the CNV activities. So if this were a CNV activities, the first thing you will have to do is select CNV, that's communications and visibility, from the drop-down field, and that will activate the CNV activities that are already preset. So if you do have a press release, or if you have a press conference, or if you have an activity to develop, banners or what have you, then you select that from the options provided. So for this one, we're going to have a social media promotion as the CNV activity. And then we're going to hop over to the start date for this activity. And we have a prescribed format that is here. So it's pretty much you enter the day, the month, and then the year. And the format is also provided, just for your information, is also provided here in the instructions tab, just in case you forget. So going back here, let's say we want to start this the 1st of April 2022. We have that there. And we would like this to conclude on, let's say, the 30th of June 2023, we enter that. Now, what do you notice about the message that just popped up? It says the activity end date must not exceed the project end date. So I did that deliberately so you would know that we have some error messages set as a part of this tool, just to ensure that there are no incidents of errors. So the start date for any activity that you enter cannot precede the start date for the project itself. And the end date for the project cannot exceed the end date, the end date of the activity itself cannot exceed the end date of the project. So for this project in particular, the end date is the 7th of March 2023. So in that case, we would have to set a date that corresponds to the end date for the project. So we could use the end date 7th of March 2023, and we'll be fine. All right. So the number of days is supposed to automatically populate. So there might be an issue where that is concerned. It was doing so before. But just to point out to you, this is something that is automatic, and we will address this particular issue. It was working before, so just for you to keep that in mind. Now, for this activity, you are required to enter the planned cost, and this is in euros, of course. So let's say the cost is, let's say it's 3,000 euros. So you enter that there, and that will be automatically converted using, sorry, the currency will appear in accordance with the amount that you have entered. So colleagues, that is pretty much all you need to do when you are completing the work plan. You're going to enter the activities. I'm going to just do another one. So this one I'm going to call development of, this is just very vague, but of course I'd want it to be more specific. So let's say it's development of gender action plan. So that is one of the activities planned. And this would be, this would fall under one of the core project activities. So we would select core project activity. Let me do another one in accordance with the categories that we have here. So another one could be procurement of boat, let's say for argument's sake, and that would fall under the financial aspect. And just to say that this is defined under the first tab, so you have a sense of what falls under what. All right. So so for the purchase of equipment, via procurement, that would fall there. If it's an audit, that would also be another financial aspect. You could have establishment of project management unit. That would be an administrative activity. You could also have complete baseline study. That would be a meal activity. All right. So I'm just giving you an example of the types of activities that you could place in the work plan. The other thing I want to also indicate to you, colleagues, is that we do not want the granular activities. So for example, purchase stationery, we don't need that. That might be, or purchase laptops for the project management unit. You don't need to go into that kind of granular detail. That would fall under your establishment of your project management unit or your project execution unit, whatever you call it. And all of the associated costs for the establishment of that unit would fall under this particular item, establishment of the unit. All right. So we'll put our start and end date for each of these as indicated earlier. So let's just do one more and then we will try the tracking feature of this template. So development of a gender action plan. Let's say this was planned for the 30th of September 2022, and this will take 2 months. So by December 1st, 2022, that would have been completed. All right. And of course, we would enter a cost for this. Let's say it is 2,000, just hypothetical figures here, colleagues. So we have completed the work plan template with just a few activities which are illustrative. And what I want you to notice is that the planned budget at the top corresponds to the total costs associated with the 2 activities that we have here. So the 3,000 for the social media promotion and the 2,000 for the gender action plan. And that comes up to 5,000. So the overall budget is 5,000 to date. So once you have gone through and populated this with all of the higher level activities and milestones, more granular detail, and you have entered the planned cost, then we'll get a sense of what the overall budget is. I also want to remind you that this budget should be consistent with the initial approved budget that's in your project document, and that is a part of your grant contract agreement. So this is very, very important for us. And once you have completed the template itself, the next step I'm going to take you through is how to use the tracking feature. So what we'd like you to do on a monthly basis is to enter or update the status of activities that there was movement in for that month. So for the social media promotion that would have started in on the 1st of April, if you're reporting on a monthly basis and the project has started and it is in progress, then you would select in progress. For the development of a gender action plan that should start on the 30th of September, you would enter not started. Good. And you'll notice that these are color coded. So once an activity is in progress, it's black, it remains black. Once it's not started, it is this is yellow or gold. If it is overdue, then it will have a red color and so on. So let's go to the establishment of a project management unit. We're just going to put some dates here. So let's say that this should have started on the 7th, using the project start date here, the 7th of December 2021, and ended on the 1st of February 2022 in terms of recruiting all staff, etc. So let's say these are the start and end dates. And let's say at present, the project management unit has still not yet been established. Then this will become an overdue activity and it will come up as red. All right. You'll notice at the all right, so once an activity is in progress, then once you report on a monthly basis, then you are required to indicate what the actual cost is. So for this activity, the social media promotion that is in progress, then you are required to enter how much has been spent to date on a monthly basis. So since the start date of 1st of April, you would be required to indicate what has been spent so far. It could be 1,000 euros. So we enter 1,000 euros and you'll notice that that is automatically updated. So once you have done that update, we do ask that you update the month that this was done. So let's say we are in September at this time, and we have prepared a monthly report for, let's go back to August because September is still in progress. So let's say we have updated this for the month of August. So we would enter, or we would select August from the drop-down field, and then we would select the reporting year, which would be 2022. Now for the overdue activity, of course, you would still be required to enter the planned cost. So I'm just going to put a very big figure here, just hypothetical, right? Sorry, didn't mean that big of a figure. So let's say it's 10,000 euros, and to date we have spent, let's say, 5,000 euros. All right. And the month that we have updated this is still in August. All right. And the year 2022. Now, colleagues, for any activity that is overdue, we do ask that you provide an explanation for this variance, and that is where the notes section comes in handy. So I'm going to stop at this point to accommodate any questions, and then I'm going to ask you to just test the template itself with the information using the steps that I have provided. So all you're going to do is just complete the first section in accordance with the steps that I have shared. and just populate the activities or milestones column with any 2 activities and the start and end date, etc. And then we will come back. So I'm just going to give you about 10 minutes to do that, and then we will come back. No more than 10 minutes. Are there any questions? I'm just going to stop sharing screen for a minute just to see if there are any questions in the chat.
Can we use the mic?
Yes,
Can we use
please
the
go
mic?
ahead. Yes.
Yeah, just a question. In the template, what if for example, the overdue activity, if the actual budget, the actual amount spent was over the planned amount? Can you just demonstrate that scenario where the actual is over the planned amount in terms of the budget?
Okay, so if I use a very practical example right now, we know what is happening with the currency, with the exchange rate. So you know, if that is impacting the budget, in the sense that if you have an equipment, for example, to procure, and the fluctuation in the exchange rate has impacted that, then you know, that might very well result in the cost of that equipment being higher, the actual cost being higher than what was planned. So you would, of course, be required to communicate this to the assigned program manager. Just keep the lines of communication open wherever you have issues of this nature, especially with respect to the budget, and enter into that kind of dialogue with them to see how this can be addressed. If in the end there you know, the actual cost is over the planned budget, you need to provide an explanation in the notes section. It's very, very important for us to have that information. So the first thing to do is to communicate the issue, that is the cause of this extra cost, to your program manager, and they will advise you accordingly. But for the template itself, if the actual cost is higher than the planned cost, you need to provide an explanation for this variance. And that obtains for anything else where the planned activity or what is actually achieved under the planned activity is different then you need to provide an explanation for that. All right, I see some other hands. Let me just slide down. Okay, Cleveland, please go ahead. All right, Humphrey.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Thank you. My question is related to the overall financial tracking of this. Is the intention that this document will be used to help us to present our final financials? So are we supposed to be accurately capturing all the money spent during the project on this template?
Yes, we would encourage you to use it in that way. And if you do that, then when it comes to the preparation of the interim financial report, this can become an excellent source document for that, because you would have been keeping records of what has been spent to date in relation to that activity. So we really want you to own this tool because it will definitely help you to even meet the requirements for other reporting requirements from Resembid.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay. Trudy, please go ahead.
Yes, Marcia, could you confirm the frequency with which this report needs to be submitted? Is it that it needs to be submitted quarterly with the other mill reports?
No, so the tracking, so the work plan is prepared and submitted to the program manager. So once that is done, that is submitted to the assigned program manager. But you are required to update the tracking features of this template on a monthly basis and submit that to meal@resembid.org. Sorry, .com, I'm sorry. meal@resembid.com, and it should be copied to your designated program manager. So to repeat, the work plan is prepared preferably during the inception period of the project. So as soon as the project has received approval and the grant contract is signed, we do expect you to complete this work plan and submit it to the program manager. Of course, we do encourage you to keep the lines of communication open with your program manager to ensure that what is being captured is consistent with what has been agreed. So this is what we will call the initial work plan. And then for the tracking aspect, we ask you to update the tracking fields for this template on a monthly basis, only for those activities that there has been movement on in that month. So if we do expect that, so if in the original work plan, a particular activity has already started, based on what is presented there, then we do expect you to be updating the status field of the template on a monthly basis with respect to that activity. And as you can see, it is pretty much saying that this activity is still in progress, it has been completed, etc. So I'm just going to ask you to just we're down to fewer minutes. So I'm just going to ask you to test it with just one activity. Complete the other fields that I just took you through, and then you can share whatever feedback you have. In the meantime, I'll just address some other questions that I see based on the raised hand. So we have Dawn. Go ahead, Dawn.
Right. Yeah. Our challenge is the conversion rate. What rate are we using? The rate at the time of receipt, or do we change it every time we actually make a payment?
Do you mean for the
exchange rates? Exchange rates. So to actually work out the expenditure.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, you're asking which currency should you use?
Which point of reference? Yes.
Which point of reference for the exchange rate for
yes.
Related to the cost?
Yes.
So we do have and I can share this. I hope I have it at my fingertips. We do ask you to use the EU. There is a website with that is the official website for the exchange rate that we want you to utilize when you do that conversion from euros to US. So I will if I don't drop it in the chat just now, when we do send out the presentation, I will ensure that it is included on one of the slides. So you can use that as your reference point. And you can use
but
that.
I assume that figure changes daily.
Mm-hmm.
So are we using the figure on the day of receipt of the funds? Or are we using the figure on the day of expenditure?
So let me just confirm, what we're talking about is the planned cost for an activity.
Yes.
Right? So that should be neutral, so to speak. It wouldn't rely on the funds received. It would just be, how much that activity costs. So if you're doing a social media promotion, how much does that cost? And you put that cost there. Also remember that you already have a budget that would have been approved, and we want you to use that as your reference point when you are doing the work plan. Does that help?
Not really.
Well, maybe I'm misunderstanding.
This is the challenge we've been having because the rates change. So when you actually spend, the rate is different to when you would have received it. So that's what we were trying to clarify.
Okay. So you just have to report on actual, and in the notes section of the template, just indicate the issue that is surrounding this. It is something that we are well aware of within Resembid, and it is something we are monitoring to see how this is impacting the projects. But in this particular instance, where there is an issue with this kind of fluctuation, if in the end it affects the actual cost and it accounts for that variance between what was planned and what was actual, we ask you to again speak with your designated program managers, program manager, sorry. And when you report it, when you update the actual cost in the template, where there is a variance, we do ask you to just explain this. Thank you, Vinco, for adding to what I have said. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. I have a terrible connection and all sorts of sounds around me, but a quick one. The exchange rate is always presented at the link that info euro that Anika mentioned, and then it's important. It's not changed daily. For the purposes of reporting, it's changed monthly. However, the details about the reporting is clearly under the part of the next workshop that is planned for the nearest future. It's slightly delayed. However, very soon you will actually receive the invitation for that one. So I would kindly ask you to wait for that discussion for the next workshop. So because it might go into many different directions, and we don't want to lose focus on this one. But for the time being, we are aware of the situation because we live the situation just like you do. So let us keep that conversation, pardon me, for the next workshop. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Vinco. The other question I had was the date, start date and end date. These would be the dates in your project document, of course, not the actuals.
Right, exactly.
So if your start date happens to come after your end date in the project thing, everything will then show up late.
Well, if you enter a start date that precedes, if you enter the start date for an activity that precedes the start date for the project, the system will reject it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you enter an end date for an activity that exceeds the end date for the project, the system will reject this. So all your activities have to be within the implementation period of the project.
Oh, the chart refers to the implementation of the entire project, not that specific activity.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Thank you.
You are welcome. Have I missed anyone? All right. So yes, Michelle, please go ahead.
I asked questions in the chat, and also some other people had same problems that the end date and start date of the project is not set correct. It's set on 1900, so we can't add any activities now.
Thank you. Thank you. I should have pointed out to you that if your project is not yet under implementation, then the start and end dates will not pop up. So my apologies for that. So that is why. So for persons with projects under implementation, the start and end dates will automatically populate. Once your project is approved for implementation, then you will be sent this work plan template, and then you can populate it, and everything will work in accordance with what I have presented.
Okay, then we'll wait for a moment, because last week we got the signature from Paris. So then I assumed we would the dates would have been present, but they will come later.
Yes.
And one more question. It should be in euros, the cost in the work plan. Should we specify the financing in euros or in the local currency?
No, in euros. The tool accommodates euros only.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any other questions? Was anyone able to successfully add an activity? We have about less than a minute left, and we have to go to the second session. And of course, we want to give you a 5 minutes break. But were there any challenges? Okay, all right then. If you were able to add an activity and complete, any aspect of the tool just to test it, can you just raise your hand? Great. Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. So this really concludes the presentation for today. Are there any other questions before we end this first session?
Yeah, just one more.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, in the event that there are some changes that are required on the work plan that we have received, then you are the go-to person that we should liaise with?
Absolutely. So I'm just going to drop in the chat, and this information will also be sent out with the PowerPoint, my email and my email address. So if you have any questions, you can reach out to me, and I'll also be sending out a guidance, a very simple guidance note, so you can know how to utilize the tool effectively. All right, so that is to come as well. It's really a step-by-step guidance in relation to completing this tool. All right, so for those with projects under implementation, we will be in touch with you to share this tool, and we do ask that you update it on a monthly basis and submit it to MEAL as well as your program managers. We do expect that kind of commitment from you. All right, so that concludes our first session. If there are no other questions, yes, go ahead, please.
I'm sorry, when I was trying to fill in the activities and milestones, the drop-down list only offered options for the communication and visibility. Are the other sections supposed to be just filled in manually, or will they be updated?
So the other types of activities must be completed manually. The CNV activities are the only one, is the only one, sorry, with preset fields for activities.
So my communications person asked if she does an activity that is not on the list now, can that be added to the communications list?
Sorry, I'm not hearing you so well.
My communications person is asking if she adds something to the list for communications. If she does an activity that is not within the defined options right now, can she do that, or does she have to discuss it first with Nisa?
Yes, it would be good to discuss it first with Nisa.
Okay.
Then, yeah.
For the core activities, for the start date, it's when we start working on that core activity, right?
It's a planned start date. So what I would ask everyone to do is to use what you have in your project document, so that it would have the budget, it would have an indicative work plan. We know things have changed, but we want to ensure that whatever you capture in that work plan is consistent. There's congruence between work plan and the project document. So please use those that document as your reference point when completing this work plan. It is absolutely important for you to do that.
So I should not use the actual dates like when I start working on it, but just what I submitted?
You would have a planned start date for the activity, right? For any activity that that's
yes,
in the.
But if the real date so that's is different, then what do I do with the real information?
So in a case like that, there's a note section, right? So if at the point of reporting on a monthly basis, if the activity has not yet started, then you will be able to update the status. It's not started, right? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you would have to indicate in the notes section that it should have started on this date, but there was a delay because of 1, 2, 3 reasons. So that is important, so we understand. Yeah.
What if it's the opposite? What if for some reason, like in scheduling an expert, they couldn't do the date that we had scheduled 2 years ago when you wrote the application, but they can do earlier? Same thing. Okay, so but then the in the list it would still say the planned day, and then the end day would be before the start date. Or I just
that's fine. Everything is just starting earlier. So all you need to do is to just provide an explanation for this in the notes section. So that's fine.
So the start and end date should not reflect real life activities, just the planned activities.
All right, so so it is really what you have planned. We do know that life happens. So that is why it is important to always communicate why there's a difference between what actually happened and what you intended to do.
Okay, no, I'm just because it says actual completion date, so that's when I put the real ones. But at the start and end date, I put the planned ones, not the actual ones.
Right, exactly.
Okay, just that. get to know. Thank you. I didn't
You're
know so much.
welcome. Very happy to clarify. Cleveland, is that an old hand?
Yes, ma'am. That's the hand. There are no questions here. Thank you.
Okay, all right. So we do have to end now. We have gone 5 minutes over into the other session. I'm going to ask you to just take 5 minutes to just have a bathroom break, refresh yourselves, and be back here in 5 minutes. That's 10 minutes. That's 11:10. 10 minutes past 11. All right. So please 5 minutes and then we will resume. Thank you so much for your participation in this session, and we look forward to further dialogue with you on this particular initiative. Okay, colleagues, we are ready to resume the second session. If you are ready and hearing me, I'm going to ask you to just prepare yourselves for our second session, which has to do with meal and other reporting requirements. All right, so for this session, I will have two co-facilitators, Julia Morelli, who is as one of our associate program managers, and Judy Clark, who is a technical advisor for resilience and gender with the program. So I'm just going to go to slideshow so we can commence in earnest. So today's session is really to take you through the requirements for the reports that we have outlined in your grant contracts. So we do have the terms and conditions for the interim and final narrative and the financial reports, and terms and conditions for the quarterly meal progress reports that will be presented by Julia. And then we will share with you the meal reporting requirements, which will focus in particular on the meal reporting template. So for that, I will do a walkthrough of the template so you can be familiar with what is required when you prepare this report on a quarterly basis. Judy will conclude with a presentation on tracking gender mainstreaming in meal reports. Our RESEMBID is promoting gender equality. And as a part of that, we want to ensure that the projects where there is applicability reflects gender sensitive indicators and the gender related activities as a part of this larger objective. We'll also have a dedicated question and answer session. However, please feel free to ask questions. We will pause at various points to accommodate your questions. And we also ask that you provide your questions in the chat. So without further ado, we'll go into the meat of the matter. I just wanted to emphasize, while we do require that you provide reports, it's not a routine activity. It's not something that we require out of a hat. It is more very intentional to support a number of objectives that we have. So the first one is to ensure that there is accountability for the use of the RESEMBID funds. We also want to ensure that you, our implementing partners, are documenting the project's performance and progress. We want to also ensure that reports are prepared and that they are disseminated to key stakeholders, and in particular that where there are issues identified that are impacting the implementation of the project, that timely corrective action is taken to ensure that the project doesn't fail, to put it bluntly. We also want to ensure that the reports capture lessons learned that you may want to apply when you are designing other projects, or that you may use to improve the way a project is implemented, whether this project or any other project of a similar nature that you are intending to implement. It also becomes a learning point for other OCTs or other organizations that would like to undertake similar initiatives within your specific OCT. So having said that, I'm now going to hand over to Julia, who will take you through the terms and the conditions for interim and final narrative and financial reports.
Thank you, Marcia. So in the following slides, we will review the terms and conditions of the narrative and financial and MIL reporting. So for both types of reports, you will find the reporting schedule for your specific project in the Article 4 reports and payment terms of your grant contract specific conditions. And I also invite you to read the Article 2 presentation of final and narrative reports of your grant contract general conditions to see more detail on your reporting modalities. So concerning the financial and narrative reporting, you will have to submit one or more interim reports and one final report. So the interim narrative and financial report will have to be submitted after 6 months of implementation. And in the situation of projects with a duration of 13 months or more, other interim reports will have to be submitted after each 6 months period. Those reports will have to be submitted within 60 days of the end of the reporting period. And the documents that have to be submitted are the Annex 6 to your grant contract financial report, Annex 6 interim narrative report, and according to your pre-financing schedule, the payment request model, which is Annex 5. So in the case, for example, of a project starting on January 1st, 2022, you would have to, the first interim report would cover the period from January to June, and you would have to submit the report within the end of the month of August. So the financial report will provide the information on the status of expenses of the project on the reporting period. And the interim narrative report will permit to illustrate the project achievements, challenges in relation to your work plan during the implementation period covered by the report. You will also have to report in this in another section of this report on the communication and visibility activities of your project. So you can go to the next slide on the final report. So the final report will have to be submitted after the end of the entire implementation period and must be sent within 90 days of the end of the implementation period. It is also composed of a narrative and a financial report. Towards the end of the ResMBid program in 2024, ResMBid might, on a case-by-case basis, request the grantee to submit the final report within a shorter period, should there be a limited time left for the implementation of the ResMBid program and the closing of all of the project. All the narrative and financial report will have to be submitted to the grant email address, as well as the email address of your program manager that is identified in your grant contract, and in copy to the MIL email address. So as Vinko mentioned earlier, there will be another session on contractual and financial management, where our colleagues from Grants and Finance will present you with greater detail all the ResMBid requirements, and you will be able to raise questions on contracting and financial management. Concerning the MIL reporting, so next slide, please. Marcia will later on guide you through the MIL report. However, here is the terms and conditions on the MIL reporting. So those reports have to be submitted quarterly, so they cover 3 months period, and they are cumulative, which means that the first MIL report would cover the 3 first months of implementation, the second one the 6 first months of implementation, and so on. Those reports will have to be submitted within 30 days of the end of the reporting period. And the documents that have to be submitted are the quarterly MIL progress report, as well as any relevant document or annexes to this report. This report has to be sent to the MIL email address, as well as the program manager in charge for your project. Next slide, please, Marcia. So this is a quick example of a schedule for the meal reporting. As I was mentioning earlier, those reporting are cumulative. So here, if we take the example of a project starting on the 1st of January 2022, the first meal quarterly progress report would cover the 3 first months of the year from January to March and would have to be submitted within the month of April. The second quarterly progress report would cover the months from January to June and show the achievements during this implementation period and would have to be submitted in July, and so on with the third report covering the 3 first quarter and being submitted in October, and the last quarterly progress report covering the whole implementation period, the 12 months of the year, and being submitted in January of the next year. So I hope this is clear. Don't hesitate if you have any questions, and thank you very much for your attention. Over to you, Marcia.
Thank you, Julia. We'll pause just to respond to any questions. Julia, are you able to check the chat? Do we have any questions in the chat?
There is no question on this session, no.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, so we're going to go next into the meal reporting requirements, and we will have an introduction to tracking gender mainstreaming in meal reports. I'm so sorry. So as Julia mentioned earlier, quarterly meal progress and the performance report is required. And this is really intended to help us to assess how the program is doing vis-a-vis the projects, and how and why we are having this kind of performance, whether projects are not performing well or they're performing well. It gives us a sense of the why. And it also enables us to provide the requisite support in a timely manner to assist implementing partners in addressing any issues identified in implementation. So it really helps us to get information on progress relative to the work plan, and for you to also explain why this kind of progress is evident, something that goes a bit further than a monthly report. And it also allows us to track, how well the extent to which targets in the project log frame are being met. So at this point, I'm just going to walk you through the reporting template. I will have to come out of presentation mode so you can view. But just to say that for the reporting, the quarterly reports, that you are required to check your grant contracts for the schedule. I want to emphasize that because that schedule will differ from project to project depending on the project start date. So I would like you to bear that in mind. And it's something that Julia would have said, but I just want to emphasize that. So this is the quarterly meal progress reporting template. I'm going to take you through the various sections, and then I'm going to take you to the project results Excel file that allows you to report on how the project is performing in relation to the targets that were set. So for the first two sections, you may pull this from your project document. So you are required to provide the project title, the reference/contract number, the location of the project, specify the OCT or OCTs, the name of the implementing organization and the contact person, as well as their email and the telephone number, and the reporting period that is covered. So it will always be, as Julia said earlier, you are covering the quarter that has just ended, and you are submitting the report within 30 days of the end of that quarter. So this is what the start and end date should look like. Now, the project implementation period is the entire duration of the project. So the start date for the project and the end date for the project. And of course, the project duration in months is the next required information. The total budget approved from Resembid in euros comes next. And then we ended this section with the project executive summary. So as I indicated earlier, all of this can be copied and pasted from your project document, except for the reporting period, which would, as I indicated before, be related to the specific quarter that you are reporting on. Now to go to this important notice that we want you to bear in mind, your meal report should be sent by email in Word format to, not PDF, please, Word format to mail@resembid.org and copied to the Resembid contact indicated in Article 5 of your grant contract special conditions. Very, very important for you, a very, very important note for you to make is that if you have any problems, concerns, or issues arising out of the implementation of your project, that you communicate this immediately to the designated Resembid program manager. And as I indicated in the previous session, they will provide the requisite support or advice or guidance in determining what actions need to be taken. Please do not wait until this point when a quarterly report or an interim or final report is due to bring those issues to their attention. So that is why the monthly report, providing that status, is extremely important, so we can provide the requisite support in the event that you are having issues in the implementation of any of your activities. So these are the sections of the reporting template. The first one is the context. And we have in each reporting, we have in the reporting template some guidelines for completing the particular section. So for the first one, when providing information under the context section, you are required to briefly describe any recent change in the environment, whether social, economic, or political, in which the project is being implemented that may affect the project positively or negatively. And these can be perceived or actual changes. If there have been no recent changes in the environment that are impacting the project in any way, then all you need to enter is NA, not applicable. So I take, for example, with the passage of a hurricane, Hurricane Fiona, in the Turks and the Caicos Islands, already we are aware of the impact it is having on some of the project activities being implemented by the respective implementing partners. Where you have projects that are negatively impacted in that way, we need you to briefly describe what has happened and how it has impacted your ability to implement those activities. So that is an example of how you can use that. Another example I can immediately cite is the fluctuation in the currency. That might impact your ability to implement all the activities or to even complete a particular activity that you wanted to undertake. So it is very important to always be monitoring what is happening in the context and to report on how those are impacting the project, whether positively or negatively. The second one, another thing I want you to keep in mind as I go through this is that this is relevant to the quarter that you are reporting on. So for the quarter now ending that is relevant to your project, if this hurricane occurred in that quarter and it impacted activities, that's what you will report on, how it has impacted the project activities. So I want us to bear that in mind. The second section requires you to provide a description of the activities, including communications and visibility activities that were undertaken during the quarter according to initial work plan. So we have 3 columns in this table. The first column requires you to provide information on activities that were planned for the quarter. And under column 2, what was actually implemented in relation to those planned activities. So if you planned, for example, to conduct a survey of staff in a particular organization, and that is a planned activity, then the actual implementation is what you actually did. Did you actually conduct the survey, or did you just reach the stage where the survey was designed, but you were not able to actually implement the survey? In that case, there is a variance. So there is progress in relation to this activity, but in terms of the completion of that survey, which is, what you have articulated here on the planned activity, you'd have to indicate, why you weren't able to complete it as envisaged, sorry. So, so planned activity, what was actually implemented in relation to the planned activity, and if there was any variance between actual and planned, we do ask you to explain why this is so. The third section requires you to click on this embedded icon here, and it will take you to an Excel template with the project log frame template. With this template, you will be required to report on the results that were achieved during the quarter that has just ended. That's one, but you're also required to provide what has been achieved cumulatively in relation to that target. So I'm going to take you to that template right now and walk you through it before we conclude with the 3 remaining sections of this report. So you click on it in the template, and are you all seeing my Excel file?
No, I'm
Julia,
not.
Are you seeing it, Julia?
No, not yet. We're
Or
still
let me
seeing
share again.
the Word documents.
Are you seeing it now? It says Project Logical Framework. Are you seeing
now
that?
I can see it.
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
great. Now, the first thing I need you
I
to
just
do
need
when you
the invite
prepare
now.
your first
I'm trying to put it on so at least I can. Okay. Register now.
Okay, can we mute our mics, please, unless you have a question? Yeah, thank you. So when you prepare your first quarterly report, you have the opportunity to populate this with what you have in your log frame. So if you just visually recall your log frame, you will remember that there is a specific objective or outcome for your project, as well as a number of outputs. So you're going to transfer, copy and paste those results from the log frame to this document, to this Excel file. So you enter the the information in that first column. You'll do the same for the indicator column. You will copy the indicators for each of these results from the log frame to this file. You'll also do the same for the baseline. We're going to skip columns D, E, F, and G, and go to column H, which is the life of project's target. So in your log frame, you would have set some targets for each of the indicators that are associated with your outputs. So that is what you are going to provide here. And then you're going to complete that activity with the means of verification or data source, and that is also in your log frame. So once you do that for your first quarterly report, then all you will need to do for all subsequent quarterly reports is update columns D, E, F, and G. All right. So in this case, let's say I'm just going to put an output here. Just so that you have a sense of what I mean. So it could be staff from the Energy Ministry, trained in Maintaining solar. That's a very basic. Staff from the Energy Ministry trained in maintaining solar panels. So let's say this was one of the outputs in your log frame. So you would transfer that here. You would add your indicator here. So it could be number of staff trained. And we could take it one step further by making this a gender sensitive indicator and having, we could have male and female staff from the Energy Ministry trained in maintaining solar panels. And then the indicator would be number of male and female staff trained. So let's say this was what you had in your log frame. You transfer this here. The baseline for this output would be 0. And let's say this is as of 2021, could be 2022, whatever is, what this would be the prior to, when your project started. And then we do plan. So it would be 0 male staff and 0 female staff. All right, for 2021. All right, so you pull that from your log frame, and then you would have had your end of project target. Remember, this is the first time we're doing this. So we would have, for example, if we have 15 members of staff to be trained, we could perhaps ensure that 50% of that staff, 50% of those trained are female staff. Of course, it depends on the reality within the organization, but you wouldn't have a gender sensitive indicator if they're like this, if there wasn't a need to have female staff in the ministry trained. If there are no female staff members to be trained, then you would not need to disaggregate this by sex, all right, or to have this gender sensitive indicator. So in this case, it could be 10 male staff and 5 female staff by, and you put a date. So it could be by June 2023. All right, so we have a sense of, how many persons are to be trained and by when. So we have pulled that from the log frame, and we have, it could be means of verification, could be a training report, or it could be a training register, whatever, depending on the nature of your activity. So we have done that. Now, on a quarterly basis, if there has been movement in this output, then you would update these columns. If there is no movement, and when I say movement, if no activities have taken place in relation to this output and no aspect of the target has been achieved, then you don't need to report on it in the period. So you just leave it blank. All right, some persons, based on the reports that I have received, they enter NA not applicable, that's fine. But if you have not set a quarterly target for this indicator, then there's no need to report. There's really nothing to report. But let's say for this particular quarter, we had a target set where we were planning to train let's say we're planning to train just 5 male staff. All right, so we would put 5 male staff. All right, and we're going to train all of the female staff. All right, or it could be that we plan to train everybody. Let's say we put 10 male staff and the 5 female staff. But for the actual quarter, we only managed to train 5 male staff and 3 female staff, right? Then it means it would have met that the target was not met or was partially met. So in this case, you can put target partially met. And then year to date, you would have trained 5 male staff and 5 female staff. So this is a cumulative part of what Julia mentioned in her presentation. So for this quarter, we would have trained 5 male and 3 female. All right. Now, let's say you are now preparing a report for the quarter that follows. Now, for this quarter, you would have perhaps decided to ensure that the remaining staff members are trained. So your new target would be the difference between, you know, the life of project target and what we have here. So for the quarter, it would be 5 male staff that we are targeting, no females, of course, and the actual might be, you know, that we have actually trained everybody. So in this case, we have met our target. All right, so year to date now we would have trained all 10 male. Let me add the female as well, and then we have the 2 female, just for efficiency. So 2 male and 2 female. Right, so we have met our target. So year to date cumulatively, we have trained 10 male staff and 5 female staff, which means that we would have met our life of project target for this particular indicator. All right, so this is just an example of how you go about completing this Excel file on a quarterly basis. So just focusing only on targets that were set for the quarter and indicating whether or not the target was met, not met, or partially met, and, you know, populating the other fields accordingly. So you would do this and you would submit it as a part of your quarterly report. So I'm just going to exit this, but before I do so, are there any questions in relation to what I have just walked you through? All right, I hope that was clear as crystal. All right, so we're going to go back to our report. So once you would have done that, we do ask you to insert any additional information in relation to your project results. So for example, look at what I just shared, where for the first quarter, the project was not able to train all of the male and female staff as planned. There will be a variance because here we're seeing the target has been partially met for the quarter. So this little box here provides you with the opportunity to explain why the project was unable to train all 10 male staff and all 5 female staff. So why did we just do some? So it may be that they were not available, but you know, it's very important that you justify or explain why there's a variance between what you had planned for the quarter and what has been actually achieved. Now for section 4, we do ask you to indicate the activities that are planned for the next quarter, including communications and visibility activities. So we enter the planned activity, the timeline from X date to Y date, or you know, and any additional comments. And then recommendations. So detail any recommendations submitted internally from stakeholders or final beneficiaries. So if you have a pulse on your project, then you should be getting feedback from project partners or other key stakeholders or final beneficiaries. And it can be how to improve a particular activity or to ensure that you know, you achieve a particular results. Whatever the case may be, you can include it here. It may be suggestions for addressing a particular issue that is impacting the implementation of the project. You can put it here. So this is very broad, but it must give us a sense of what you're really doing to ensure that where there are any issues in implementation based on this report, there are already steps being taken to address those issues. And then additional information, please use this box to address any other challenges and or success stories that have emerged. So this is your opportunity to showcase what is going well with this project, but to also highlight the challenges that you're facing so that you know, these can be documented and whatever necessary support you know, be provided by Resembid, you know, by any one of us here at Resembid. And we end with the annexes. So if If a report was prepared, so for example, the baseline survey was completed and a report was prepared, that is a means of verification that you can share with us. We want to know. If you had a press release, you can also share that press release. Photos, if you bought a boat, share photos of that. If for those who are doing coral reef restoration, send us pictures of that, of what has happened. Share those with us, or even links to videos or to websites. Let us get a sense, a feel of how your project is performing, and we can showcase that for you, or in partnership with you, so that we are bringing visibility to your project and Resemble by and large. So that is it for my presentation and my walkthrough, rather my walkthrough of this reporting template. I will go back to the presentation now and just check if you have any questions.
We have a question in the chat, Marcia, from
Yes,
Michelle,
please,
which is
go ahead.
activities in the meal report should be the same as the activities in the work plan. It's a question.
Yes, yes, yes. We want consistency. Project document, work plan document, and of course your quarterly meal report. And the beauty of updating the work plan, updating the work plan tracking aspect of that tool is that it becomes a source of information for this quarterly meal report. So I do encourage you to use that and to share those monthly reports with us. All right, so I'm going to now hand over to Judy, who will conclude.
Great, thank you. Hello again. We're going to briefly look at where in the meal report progress on gender mainstreaming could be included for both quantitative and qualitative information. The purpose of reporting on gender mainstreaming is really to reflect the extent to which a project has addressed the different needs of men and boys, women and girls, and the results achieved. And the idea really is that progress in gender mainstreaming can and should be reflected throughout the project, since it shouldn't be regarded as an additional activity, but rather intrinsic in all aspects of the project. But first, it's important to mention that every good meal system starts with a baseline. So in an ideal world, project developers should conduct a gender analysis to inform the project's design. And really, it's a critical starting point for gender mainstreaming. So a simple gender analysis considers these four categories of information here. So the local context in relation to gender equality, and that could be like a national gender equality policy, or one for specific sector or field. It could also include known and documented inequalities and disadvantages experienced by one gender over another. It would also include the gender balance within the specific sector or field or area relevant to the project's intervention, the planned participation of men and boys, women and girls, if you have to sort of actively, seek to engage a particular gender that may be underrepresented, and also considering the likely impacts of the intervention on men and boys, women and girls, and also the benefits to those groups. And I do appreciate that you likely did not complete a gender analysis, but you could conduct a sex disaggregated stakeholder analysis, which, in my opinion, would cover the last three bullets there more or less sufficiently to be considered gender mainstreaming, so at a very fairly basic level. And resources on how to conduct a gender analysis, as well as the template for a sex disaggregated stakeholder analysis, can be found in the gender mainstreaming guidance for project developers document that would have been shared with you some months ago. Second slide, please. Right, so a key tool within the meal system is the log frame. And here you can include your gender specific outputs, gender related indicators, they could also be gender specific if you're targeting a specific gender. But I have related here because I don't believe that any of our projects target one specific gender. And also sex disaggregated baseline and target values where available and where possible. And Marcia used some examples of male and female staff being trained when she was discussing the logical framework. But I'm also going to give some more examples. Next slide, please. Right, so in the actual report now, section 1, in terms of the context, if there's relevant information for the reporting period related to gender mainstreaming, like I said, like a policy was completed, or even if you have conducted a gender analysis at the project level, I think you could state this here. If there is nothing, then don't make anything up. So that's fine. You don't need to include anything. With respect to section 2, here you're reporting on activities such as capacity building activities, stakeholder engagement, public awareness, for example, and you could have sex disaggregated data if that's possible. But the important thing here is to capture the activities that describe the effort to mainstream gender. For example, meeting with a women's association to encourage members to register for training in community early warning systems. And for the most part, I expect that project activities that you report on maybe at a higher level, but we're more or less starting from scratch here with regard to gender mainstreaming. So we would want to include what might seem mundane, but we want to capture those activities. So your planned involvement and participation, your boys and girls, men and women, your planned and actual specific activities to target them. And of course, as Marcia highlighted, if there's any variance, the reason for the variance between the planned and the actual activities. Next slide. So here for section 3, that is the logical framework that Marcia went through. Here I've used an example to show the kind of information that could go into the log frame. These bullets are actually not in the right order. So here you include quantitative information, capturing the baseline values and targets for gender-specific outputs, the collected sex disaggregated information based on completed activities. And of course, you have your outputs there on the left column. So the completed gender-specific outputs of the project where applicable. Maybe you do not have it gender-specific. And the example I've used here in the first instance, where the output is male and female staff from relevant government institutions trained in the use of the Common Alerting Protocol, or CAP, for early warning systems. And the indicator then would be the number of women and number of men within the National Disaster Response Mechanism trained in the use of CAP. And your baseline here is not 0, it's 4 men and 1 woman. In this example, this hypothetical example, 4 men and 1 woman have already been trained in CAP. Not to do with the project, but it's actually the same kind of training. So maybe the project is an add-on. So in this instance, once that capacity exists already, then your baseline might actually not be 0. So then your target value is 6 men, so 6 more men that you want to train for the project and 6 more women. In the second example, the output is workshops convened with male and female community members to develop a local disaster local disaster management plan. And your indicator then would be number of men and number of women who attend community-based meetings on the development of this disaster management plan. And in this instance, because the community did not have a disaster management plan previously, and there've been no engagement activities for this, then your baseline is 0. So no men, no women, and target here, 10 men, 10 women. Now, just a note on that, the numbers of men and women don't necessarily have to be equal. And in reality, they seldom are, despite your best efforts to say that you're going to target equal number of men, equal number of women. Sometimes it's just not possible or realistic. But if you had completed your gender analysis or your sex disaggregated stakeholder analysis, that may reveal that, for example, women are underrepresented in the specific area or subsector or field relevant to the project. And then in that instance, project implementers may choose to target a greater number of women than men to participate. So just say it doesn't have to be equal. The whole idea is actually very contextual based on the results of your analysis. And last slide, please. Right, so for section 5, recommendations. So intrinsic to the meal is the idea of taking corrective action where needed. So if there's a variance in your plan and actual activities, or if you want to put more effort into mainstreaming gender, then you include actions that get on track with respect to gender mainstreaming or get back on track with regard to gender mainstreaming. Because maybe you haven't factored it in before, but perhaps after this workshop today, you will take some efforts to do so. That is my hope. And lastly, section 6, additional information. Here, you really have a wonderful opportunity to include qualitative information based on the analysis of your sex disaggregated data. You likely won't have age disaggregated data, that's fine, but if you can have sex disaggregated, that's great. In order to determine the benefits and the impacts of the challenges with respect to gender equality. So it's not just reporting on your number of men and women or boys and girls participating or benefiting, but this data should be translated into more useful information to really understand the impacts. So for example, if one gender was, as I said before, underrepresented in your project, then why? Is that typical for that sector or subsector? And what efforts were employed by project implementers and partners to ensure equitable participation, and were these efforts successful? And importantly, how did activities specifically benefit men and boys, women and girls? And these really rich experiences are captured as lessons learned, good and bad, as we learn from what doesn't work as well. And for this information in particular, you are encouraged to be proactive in documenting it by asking the right questions early in the project and knowing how to treat the answers. And like I mentioned, the resource before, the guidance document prepared, that can provide some assistance. So I encourage you to go back to that. And should you need more support, your program managers can assist you, and I may be available if that's necessary to assist as well. And that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. So as we conclude our the session, I just want to remind you, and this will have come out in the first session, that if during the course of monitoring, you recognize that there's a need to adapt your work plan, because based on what you're learning, and based on the corrective actions that you need to take, this adjustment will yield an enhanced level of result. We do ask that you speak with the program managers designated for your project, and they will provide the necessary support and guidance. One of the things we do ask, however, is that you do not change in any way, shape, or form the specific objective or outcome of your project. So I would like to thank you for listening to Julie, Judy, and myself. And at this point, we will take your questions and answers. Sorry, your questions, sorry, not your answers. All right, I don't see any raised hands. No questions in the chat. So I'm going to ask you to raise your hand if you fully understand everything that we have shared. All right, thank you very much for those who have responded. So I'm just quickly checking the chat to see if there are any questions that I have overlooked. And for those individuals who had posted questions in the chat from the first session, please go back and check my response. I made sure to take some time to do that. Okay. So for those who would like to get the gender mainstreaming document, Julia has posted a link to that in the chat. All right, so the last thing we'd like you to do is to complete our workshop evaluation form. It won't take you more than like 3 minutes, literally. So it's in the chat, just click on the link and it will take you to the form. Once you complete and submit it, we will get it immediately. So please just take the time to tell us how you feel about what we did and what we can do to be better the next time around. So I'm just going to allow for 2 more minutes to get that done before formally ending the session. All right, so while you do that, just to remind you that all reports should be submitted to MEAL. You know, it is indicated in your grant contracts, typically what I do is just review what you have submitted. If I need to clarify anything with you, I will reach out to you bilaterally to clarify so that we can have a final report prepared. So I just wanted to point that out. The first quarterly reports tend to be like the trying field, so to speak. So you know, once you get that right as far as possible, then the others should be better. All right, so hopefully you all got a chance to complete the evaluation form. On behalf of the RESEMBI team, I would like to thank you all for your overwhelming response to this invitation to participate in the workshop. I hope it was worth your while as it was ours, and we do look forward to working with you on the work plans, on having your monthly reports, and also to have your having your quarterly reports as per our requirements. Feel free to reach out to any of us if you have any questions, and we will follow with a recording, the PowerPoint, and any other information that we think you will find useful as we, you know, work together for successful implementation and quality results. So all the best, everyone, wherever you are. Bye.